In this video, I'm going to talk you through the 7 main ways DJs play today, the 7 types of gear that DJs use. If you are brand new to DJing and you want to make sure you pick the right gear, or if you're returning to DJing and you want to know what the hell has changed since the days when it was all about 2 turntables and a mixer, this is for you. So we're going to start off with exactly what you can see here, 2 turntables and a mixer, because this is kind of where it all started, and there are still DJs that use exactly this kind of setup today. So these are Technics turntables, the classic turntable that is still the standard by which all others are judged, and these are real records. And so on. This is how it was always done, and this is how I learned. And look, if you want to do it this way, that's great. If you're returning to DJ, maybe you used to do it this way, but there are issues. You know, the vinyl, I've still got some of my old vinyl there, but the vinyl is hard to buy nowadays. It's expensive. Unless you live in a big city, you probably haven't got a record shop. Most music's not released on vinyl. And to be really honest with you, what you can do on this kind of setup is quite limited. Yeah, if you're a scratch DJ, it's kind of all you need, but for most DJs, a lot of the features that you're going to want to use, that you see DJs using, is not really possible when you're using vinyl on standard record decks. And so this is a niche way of DJing nowadays. So if that's a niche way of DJing nowadays, maybe you already own turntables, or maybe you still like the idea of using classic turntables, but you'd like to use digital music, MP3s. You want to DJ using that stuff, but with the gear that already exists, the classic gear. Well, that's the second way of DJing we're going to move on to, which is called DVS, or digital vinyl. Now, at first glance, this looks like what we were just looking at, but look more carefully. These 2 pieces of vinyl are the same, and they've got the word Serato on them, which, if you know anything about modern DJing, will alert you to the fact that that is the name of one of the pieces of DJ software that dominates in the world today. Indeed, this is what Serato DJ software looks like. I've got it running on my laptop here at the moment, and those pieces of vinyl are actually this. It's called control vinyl, and this is not music. What we're going to see on here is that if we were to play this, if I was just to play you what this sounds like, it's not music at all. Now that might sound like gibberish to us, but to a computer and to Serato, that is special code that tells the software what to do with the music that you've got loaded. So when I press play on this with the software enabled, you can see that I'm controlling and playing the music from here. And so that gives me the best of both worlds, because what I've got there is the record decks that I owned already. I haven't changed anything about the physical setup here. All I've done is plug this laptop into the mixer, because the mixer is designed to work with modern DJ software. This is a modern mixer that we've got set up here. And I've put the control vinyl onto the turntables. And that means that I can now control music that I've got on my software by using the turntables. And there's a big advantage to this, because, for instance, yes, those 2 tracks you see me using there are ones that I own. They were in fact written by one of our tutors, Joey, for our music production course. But you can DJ with music from Tidal, just a normal basic streaming service like Spotify, or from DJ-friendly streaming services directly from the DJ software. So that means that you can, without having to own any music, access all the music in the world, and by using a couple of pieces of control vinyl and a compatible piece of DJ hardware in the middle, you can then DJ in the way that you've always done it with records. Now, you don't actually have to use records at all. There's a system which takes this a little bit further, called phase. And phase gives you, I'll try and get this out without dropping them or breaking them. It gives you a special system where this box here plugs into your DJ gear, and then these little pucks here go onto your turntables. So I'll take that record off that turntable, I'll put this on here. Now this communicates with this This is a wireless, you recharge this and it charges everything up. It communicates with that and talks to your DJ software. So you can put these onto your turntables and you can DJ away without the need for any vinyl at all and control your DJ software using this. It's a massively popular system that's very easy to set up in clubs, and this is another way of converting, if you like, existing turntables into something that you can use to control your DJ software. Collectively, this kind of DJing is called DVS, which stands for Digital Vinyl System, and it could be something that you consider if you already own DJ gear like I've got set up here. However, for most people, that's not going to be a good choice because the DJ gear is expensive, and then you've got to buy the software on top and the hardware if you're going to use extra hardware, or Serato, or whatever system you want to use. There's lots of DJ software out there, compatible DJ gear just to make it work. So prohibitively expensive, and unless you really want that old school feel of vinyl, in fact DJing has moved on since then, and most DJs, professional DJs in clubs, don't use this kind of thing anymore. The record decks, the turntables, are usually in the corner being used as a coat stand. So if the turntables are being used as a coat stand, what has replaced them in professional nightclubs? Well, that is our third system, and it is what used to be called CDJs and what are now generically referred to as media players. So this is a modern CDJ setup. This is actually very similar to the setups that first came in 20 years ago or so. And these are two players that stand on their own. They're separate to the mixer, and they play CDs, or nowadays they actually play music from a USB drive because we don't use CDs anymore. But in the first place, they were playing CDs. You slotted your CDs in the front and you controlled them using these jog wheels here. This brought a couple of things to DJing, which were the reasons why these very quickly took over and are now in clubs all over the world. The first thing they brought to DJing was the idea that you didn't need to own the vinyl. You could use originally CD burners. You had to buy special CD burners, but of course then they appeared in laptops and so on. And you could very easily get your music digitally, emailed to you or whatever, and burn it onto CDs to go and play in the club. No need for the record shops, no need to wait to own a piece of vinyl to play new music. And of course DJs loved that. But the second big thing, and we can't underestimate this, is that these started to bring in new ways of DJing. So they had looping, and so you could hit loop and you could make a part of your track go round and round again, which totally changed the way DJing was done. It allowed DJs to start to live remix their tracks, and they also had cue points so that you could add points to your tracks and jump back to them in the mix, again helping DJs to move away from just playing one track after another and to start doing more adventurous things with them. It was the beginning of the way DJing is done today. So they are called CDJs even now, even though they don't have any CD slots in them anymore, and there's no computer in the DJ booth with you at all when you're DJing on these. You prepare your music at home on a laptop or a computer and you put it onto a USB drive, plug it in, and then they will all network together, they'll all come to life, and you DJ using this as the club standard nowadays. It's very expensive. What we're looking at here, you could buy a small car for the cost of this. And it's also overkill for most home DJs. Even professional DJs that play on this kind of gear in the clubs quite often don't bother buying the same thing to have at home. It's designed so that it's very modular. If this breaks, you can pick it up and get a new one plugged in. The mixer is designed in the same way. And so for professional environments, spending thousands on each of these units makes sense, but for home, maybe not so. And also, it's not all Pioneer DJ. There is another brand out there that's done certainly a big thing for the industry as far as the technology goes, which is Denon DJ. This is the SC6000 player. These have got more tech in than the Pioneer players, but they haven't managed to usurp the Pioneer players in the DJ booth. So the club standard is still Pioneer, but the actual technology leader nowadays is Denon DJ with their equivalent of this kind of tech. So we've now covered 3 of our 7 ways DJing is done today. We've covered turntables, we've covered using those turntables in a DVS environment, and we've covered using modern CDJ players and a mixer, the way DJing is done the world over in pro DJ booths nowadays. But if this way is prohibitively expensive, maybe there's a way of DJing that looks and feels like the real DJ booth, with no laptop nearby and with a USB drive with all your music on, that doesn't cost the price of a small car, that takes how this is and makes it more accessible to the likes of you and me. And there is, and that is the fourth way that DJing is done today. This is a standalone all-in-one DJ console. What this shares in common with the last system we looked at, the Pro Club separates system, is that you use a USB or an SD or a hard drive to get your music into it. There's no computer in the DJ booth with you. It has a big screen which lets you control everything you see on here. It's got the looping and the cues and lots more stuff actually that makes it feel like modern DJing, lets you do all the stuff you see modern DJs do, all in one box. This means that you're paying a lot less than you would pay to buy the Pro Club separates and getting probably more functionality for your money. Certainly for most DJs who want that kind of system where there's no laptop with them and they're DJing in the way that you see DJs doing in clubs, this is probably the most cost-effective way to go. This is the Denon DJ Prime 4, a very popular system, but another one that people love is the Pioneer equivalent, and the most popular Pioneer equivalent at the moment is this one here, which is the XDJ RX3. So either of these units at the time of filming are the ones that people are going for. There's a few out there, but this is probably the biggest modern rival to our fifth DJ system, the one that actually most people use. So if you're choosing DJ equipment today, returning to DJing, new to DJing, you're probably going to go for either something like this, or more likely you're going to go for what more than half of our 31,000 students here at Digital DJ Tips go for, which is our fifth way of DJing nowadays. Of course, we're talking about the humble but brilliant DJ controller combined with laptop software. Once you put together a DJ software package running on a laptop with a small box that basically controls the software, you open up DJing to everyone, because these boxes are cheap. The software is hugely capable. It can do everything that all the systems we've looked at so far can do, and then some. And it makes it easier to get started as well, because they're packed full of features that make DJing fun more quickly. And that is awesome. So for most of our students, this is what they go for, and with good reason. It is the single biggest change in DJing, just like it has been in all things, you know, photography, video making and so on. The computer has really transformed DJing. It's given you a tool that gives you easy access without costing the earth, and makes it all a lot of fun. So you will very likely be looking at buying a DJ controller. Now, the software we have here is Serato. There are other big software packages out there. There's Recordbox, which is the Pioneer DJ one. There's also Traktor. There's also Virtual DJ, DJ Pro AI, and others. But they all do pretty much the same thing. They all control your music inside the computer. They do all the mixing, all the effects. Everything happens in the computer. And the DJ controller basically gives you more intuitive controls than, say, if you were using the mouse and the keyboard to control your DJ software, and also gives you a separate output for your speakers and your headphones, which is important for DJing. These are a revolution in DJing, and it's a good reason why most of our audience here, most of our students use them. However, I've just kind of let you in on the sixth of our 7 ways of DJing, which is all that this box is really doing, is controlling the DJ software. And it's quite possible to control your DJ software using the computer's keyboard. There's something really compelling about opening your laptop, launching your DJ software, plugging in your headphones, and just DJing away with no other equipment. You can do it on your lap, on a bus or on a train. You can do it at work in your lunch hour. You can be working on your music, practicing your mixes, and even making mixtapes and so on without the need for the hardware at all. It's not as intuitive, but it is possible. And actually, when I started DJing with DJ software, that's exactly how I did it. And the reason was that the DJ controllers that we take for granted now didn't exist back then. I was trying to map like MIDI control, MIDI keyboards and stuff to work my DJ software. And in the end, I just thought, oh, you know what? I'll just figure out how to use the keyboard shortcuts and do it that way. And very quickly, I found it was quite possible to DJ with just a laptop. And a lot of DJs will do this as a backup or as a secondary way of DJing. In addition to using a controller or whatever. It's not something you would usually do as your only method of DJing, although some people do. And every control that you need, you will find there. So for instance, on this is Serato, we've got our crossfader, we've got all our EQs and so on. It can all be controlled via the laptop or the mouse and the pointer. There is one thing that you will need extra though, and that is a audio interface. And the reason for this is that DJ controllers have got two things built into them. The first thing is all the controls, but the second thing, as I mentioned, is it gives you an output for your headphones and your speakers. And of course, on a laptop, you only have one audio output. So once you plug something into there, where are you going to plug the other thing into? My headphones are there, where am I going to plug my speakers in? And that's where something like an audio interface, though this little audio interface is an example, comes in. This is actually called the Audio 2. It's made by Tractor, but there are lots and lots of audio interfaces out there that will do the job. You basically want what's called a 4-out audio interface, which gives you 4 outputs, or in other words, 2 stereo outputs, because stereo has got a left and a right. And then 2 of them go off to your headphones and the other 2 go off to your speakers. You just plug this into your DJ laptop and plug your speakers and headphones directly into this and you're ready to go. Laptop DJing is where it gets its name from, so it's no surprise that that is our 6th way of doing it. Now our 7th way of DJing and our final way of DJing is, if you think about it, something which has grown out of laptop DJing, which is the phone in your pocket. It's perfectly possible, ridiculous I know, to DJ on a phone nowadays. And you know what? Your phone has got all the technology of the biggest DJ systems that we've looked at in this video. The system that costs the price of a small car, you can do it all on your phone, and a lot more. This has got the power in it that could land a man on the moon, and so of course you can DJ on your phone. There's a couple of little things that you need to figure out. The first one is how to get the audio out of a modern phone, and we're using a little lightning cable here to do that. The second thing is how to power again your speaker and your headphones. And in this instance, you can get a little cable that kind of hacks it all together to make that work. But ultimately, you can carry around your music or even DJ with music from a streaming service on your phone, which gives you the ultimate in flexibility for DJing where the hell you want. And this kind of system actually comes full circle, because there are a couple of DJ controllers that you can then plug your phone into to make it work a bit better. And even actually, if you're using an iPad instead of a phone, you can plug it into the big price of a small car type systems, and you can control that software from those big systems. So we've come from record decks and expensive media players and club mixers all the way through to the brilliance of computers and controllers, down to actually doing this on nothing more than the phone in your pocket. The purpose of this video has been to show you the 7 ways that DJing is done today, and also to stop you thinking it has to cost you a lot of money to do this. All of these ways are legitimate. All of these ways will let you DJ and have an awful lot of fun, and most of them are accessible to most people. When you get into this hobby, you'll find that you are interested in more than one way. You might use a DJ controller at home and then go and DJ on proper club gear when you turn up at a venue that's paying you to DJ. Or you might have turntables to get the nostalgia cracked out every now and then, but actually be quite happy DJing on an iPad most of the time because you travel a lot for work, etc, etc, etc. There's no right and wrong way. But if you're at this point in the video thinking, okay, give me a recommendation, Phil, get a DJ controller and use it with the laptop you already own. That's what most people do, and that's what the majority of our students learn to DJ with. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll see you again very soon, but meanwhile, get good, get out there, and make the moments.